All right, well, welcome to DMP's Postscripts. This is the first show of the new semester, and here we are with Chrissy, Klaas.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out. So, you are a local Thunder Bay musician, obviously.
I am.
So maybe let's do the interview thing where we start at the beginning.
Okay.
How did you first get into music?
I first got into music in kindergarten. The first day of school, I went to school and there was a piano in the room, and the first thing I went to was the piano for no reason, because I'd never taken any type of lessons, obviously, because I was too young, but I just went to the piano, started fiddling around on it. My parents bought me a piano, so I was always noodling around on the piano and sang in the church choir and school choirs. And then in grade 8, I was... we were getting changed for gym class, and we were in the change rooms, and I was singing along to some music somebody had playing, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, you can actually sing!" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess I don't know." Like, 'cause I always sang in a group of people, and so unbeknownst to me, my friend signed me up in the talent show. And so I got my other friend to play guitar, and I sang Up Where We Belong. That was my first song I ever sang. And after the applause, I was hooked. So it's ever since grade 8 really is when I've been full-time music.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got the high of performing live in grade 8.
Very early on, yes.
Chasing that high.
That's right.
So, this is just something I have to ask because it's been very obtuse in my list of questions about your sleeping habits.
Well, because I play in so many bands and I play a couple of different instruments, I'm newer to the instruments than I am to singing. So I spend a lot of time practicing in the evening, or I'm recording at either my house or my friends' houses, because I work on a lot of original music. So, by the time, or I'm playing, so by the time I end up finishing all those things and I also work a full-time job, so by the time I'm done, it's like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and I go to bed, and then my dog wakes me up at 6 for her nuggets in the morning. So
Nice. Classic.
So it's pretty limited sleep time, but you know what? I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. So I just carry on. I have every once in a while I'll have a day where I just crash and burn for 12 or 13 hours, and I'm good to go for another 6 months.
That's really all you need.
That's really all you need.
Some caffeine pills.
That's
I think that there's a thing based on what I know about musicians that I like, where the more instruments you learn to play, the less you sleep. Like Prince used to play every single instrument possible.
Every instrument well.
He's a maestro at all of them. And
yes.
There's rumors that he just didn't really sleep that much, and he would he'd walk around his house.
And especially too, he was always writing original music too, right? So when you have all that creativity floating around in your head, it's sometimes impossible to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And you have to get that out either on paper or through your instrument or whatever, singing. And so I'm always constantly creating. So the brain never stops. It's like a little hamster wheel.
Yeah. Well, it's better that it never stops than it never gets going.
That's right,
I
exactly.
suppose so.
Exactly.
So, since that you play enough instruments where you're up all night doing that, how many bands are you in?
I'm in 3 different bands right now, and about 3 or 4 different recording projects.
Okay, wow.
So I'm
super
busy.
Cool. Yeah, very busy.
I have a 2-piece band.
Right.
I have a rock band and I have a blues band.
So the 2-piece band is called 2-Bit, right?
Correct. 2 bits. Yeah.
2-Bit. Okay. Where'd the name come from?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because Peter that I play with in the 2-piece band, Peter Gleason, he also plays with me in the Chain. And so we were trying to think up a name that was sort of associated with the Chain, but not saying that we are part of the Chain. So we decided to call it 2 bits. So we're 2 bits of the Chain.
Okay.
And so that's how we came about with and then it also indicates that it's a 2-piece band too, as well.
It's tongue in cheek.
Yeah, tongue in cheek. That's right.
So the blues band The Chain, speaking of which, you have an album that will be finished this year.
We've been working on it for quite a few years, about 4 or 5 years now, and it's near its completion. We have 20 songs recorded.
Wow.
And we have enough actually for 2 albums, and actually 2 different types of albums. One will be like a blues rock type feel, and the other one's more R&B type of R&B and a bit of a jazz influence on the. So we haven't decided yet if we're going to pick certain songs from each of those and make it into one album or actually release 2 separate albums. That still has to be decided.
Okay, cool. Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
Was it just kind of recording with the band, just the different styles of music came out?
Yeah, because at the time, the musicians that were playing in the band, 2 of the musicians who have since passed, they came from a jazz background. And Robbie Jardine, who's also recording the project, he's a guitar player, and he came from a country rock background. And Peter and I both come from like a rock type background, and Peter a little bit of pop as well, and myself just a bit of blues and rock. So it's all these different eclectic styles that were mixed together, and we have a really unique sound that you can hear a little bit of everything coming out in all the different songs. So it's a pretty interesting eclectic collection of songs.
Yeah. Some musical fusion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. The name The Chain, is that a Fleetwood Mac reference at all?
Absolutely not. It was just we were just trying to figure out and because of our different backgrounds, we thought, well, The Chain, it kind of links all the different types of music together. Right. So that's how we ended up with that name.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Funny coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm a big Fleetwood Mac fan, so as soon as I saw the name The Chain written down, I was like, oh.
I do love Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. They're so great.
They are.
So your other band that you're in, Head Rush, maybe talk about that. Like what's
So Head Rush has been around for about 4 years. We do primarily cover songs of the classic rock background, a little bit of current stuff. We try and mix it up a little bit so we keep the young people happy and the little bit older demographic happy.
Right.
So, and we play a lot of clubs and private parties. So we try and do a little bit of everything that keeps everybody happy. And we've also started working on originals as well.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Nice. How do you find that performing a lot of covers helps you write original music as band? Does it make the band tighter so that when you start writing originals, everybody's more comfortable to write?
Yeah, it's just you get used to playing together as a
Right.
band, and then when you go to write music, you have that cohesion already, and you have the way everybody works together, and you're like, I know that he likes this, so let's try and include this, and you just kind of get used to everybody's personalities and styles, and it's easier to write when you've already played together, and it's really easy to get a band together when you're just doing cover tunes, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know a lot of bands in town specifically love focusing on covers because
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to put a band together when you have this just music that everybody likes already and everybody likes playing.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's super
it's
cool.
an easier draw to get people to come out and see you and stuff. The Chain, my blues band, we do primarily original music. We have very
Right.
few cover songs in our sets, and we do larger venues. So
Okay.
we do openings at the auditorium or blues festival or
Right.
larger stage performances where you're playing. Maybe not a full night, you're doing a 1 hour set or stuff like that, so we're able to focus on all original music for the most part of the set.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear a nice really good crowd response too when you're doing original music.
Yeah,
And
that must be super nice.
Yeah.
So what band are you playing with
Next,
in the near future?
In the near future, Head Rush is going to be playing at the Wayland for March 11th and 12th. It's a Friday and a Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super cool. Is this at the Wayland?
That's at the Wayland, yeah.
Okay. Our class did a show at the Wayland with local rappers, and I've never been at the Wayland before, so going there, it seemed like a cool place.
You know what? It's a really cool atmosphere. It's a local neighborhood bar.
Yeah.
And everybody's very welcoming. There's never, I don't know, it's just a really fun bar to play. It's kind of like, you're probably too young to remember, but there was a bar called the In-Towner.
Okay.
And everybody used to go see the bands play there. And this
Right.
is sort of like a smaller, scaled down version, but without all the fighting. And,
Yeah.
And so it's just a great atmosphere, and people come there to actually watch music, which is very cool because you don't see that.
Rare for this town.
Yes. Right?
People usually go to venues to drink in this town, and the music's like, hey, what is this?
It's secondary sometimes,
sure.
right?
Yeah, sometimes tertiary.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, you got that right.
Going to the Wayland, it was neat because it's one of those bars where as soon as I walked into, it was in the daytime and it was for school, but it was neat because it's one of those bars where you can see that they have regulars, you know what I mean? And it's like Cheers for some people. It really felt like Cheers.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does, yeah.
So it was neat, just like one of those, it's like an old-timey, like folky bar. Like bars like that I feel like are kind of going away.
They are, and I hope this one stays around for a long time because the owners are great. Like, you know, I said, hey, Gary, I think I drove by your camp. Did you get a new? He goes, yeah, we got a new camp. He says, drop by anytime you like. So that's the type of people they are. They're really nice. They're really, really good people to work for.
Nice. Yeah. Bar with the community is always great.
Yeah, and they're always doing really cool things to keep the community interested, and they do fundraising sometimes. They do daytime stuff where they'll have like a women's show where they'll feature all different kinds of crafts and jewelry and
cool.
So they're always doing different stuff there to keep the public interested.
Nice. Besides the Wayland, is there any other, like what other venues in town besides like the Blues Fest, which is like a bigger venue?
Yeah, and Two Bits plays at Cheers. We play at the Red Lion, the Foundry. I've done shows at Black Pirates Pub, and everybody's all the club owners nowadays. They're really trying their best to keep live music alive. Yeah, and it's great to see that there's still some people that care about that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially I know just from playing shows at Black Pirates myself, Black Pirates does a lot, especially for the like younger music scene.
Yeah, they really give younger up and coming musicians a chance to get in a show or two.
Yeah, and
play with other musicians too, right? Because I know he's doing a show coming up in a couple of weeks. I think there's 25 bands in 2 weekends.
That's crazy.
So that's I feel sorry for the sound guy.
Yeah,
that's a lot of switchover.
Yeah,
but you know that's great for all the young local bands coming up that maybe wouldn't get a chance to play a full night somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder to get in, right, if you're not established.
For sure. Yeah, especially in this town, it's super weird unless you like were in a band that has like a name and then you start your own band and you could like a guy who owns a bar.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. For sure. You know a guy that knows a guy, right?
You know a guy. Yeah, that's how it works for booking gigs in this town. You know a guy who knows a guy.
That's right.
Whose niece owns the bar or something like that.
That's right.
So I know that you filmed a music video with Headrush last year, correct?
Yeah, 2020 in the summertime.
Okay.
Outside, because it was COVID,
outside.
So we were all spread apart.
Social distancing, safe.
Yes, social distancing. And the college did the filming. Emma Chilton was the director on that one.
Right.
And we had tons of fun recording, and she had smoke bombs going off with different colors to kind of change the scenery, because we shot it during the day. And it was lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Nice. So I think we are going to play that music video for So Yesterday. Here it is on the screen right now. This is Headrush with So Yesterday.
Hearts falling all over the floor, cut to the bone. I'm picking up the pieces, falling glass, and no one's alone. I'm drawing you over the wall, catch if you care. Sleep on, but lost so bold. Time to make a stand. This time it's mine, now watch me shine. This time it's mine, now watch me shine. Yesterday has left me hollow to the core. Living like that was so shallow. You know there's got to be more. You won't find me there.
Some great stuff. If somebody wants to watch the full video and enjoy all of it, where should they go to see it?
They can go to YouTube and type in Headrush So Yesterday.
Cool. Great. In terms of your voice, you got that like big classic, it's almost Joplin-esque, you know what I mean?
I've been told that.
Yeah?
Yes, I've been told that.
So like what are your vocal influences?
Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin, right.
I love Deep Purple,
Okay, cool.
White Snake.
Right?
So all the oldies,
Yeah.
all of those bands were big influences
Yeah.
on. But I also love Anita Baker. So when I do
Mm-hmm.
my blues stuff, I have influences coming from that, Netta James, and so I have a little bit of influences drawn from everywhere. But my
Yeah.
rock background is those three primary bands.
Yeah. Especially for blues music, I find like there's definitely a lot of focus on like blues vocalists because they're usually just so good and they have such powerful voices. But like old blues women in like the 50s, like you watch like old recordings of like women on like TV just like playing their guitar and like singing. It's just always such big, powerful voices. 'Cause
Yes,
it's
and tons
just so
of character.
Cool.
Tons
Oh,
of character in the voices.
There was this, I can't remember. I think it's like, she was this blues woman in like the 40s and 50s, and she played this like white Gibson SG.
Yeah.
And she had this like such big,
I
powerful
believe that was
voice.
Big Mama Thornton, but
Yes,
I could be wrong.
That's,
Yeah, I think
that's her.
yeah.
I couldn't remember her
Yeah.
name, but she's so cool, and she just completely shreds the guitar.
She was
wearing, like
kick.
a
Like, she was
ball
kick
gown.
butt for sure.
Yeah, it's so cool, and she just tears it up in every recording I've
Yeah.
ever watched of her.
Exactly.
It's so cool, and it's just like playing a white Gibson SG in like the 50s with 3 pickups. I think she had. It's just so overkill. It's just so cool.
That's pretty cool. Though.
Yeah, it's so cool. So speaking of blues and performing, you played Blues Fest.
Yes, I
You
do.
touched on that briefly.
I've played every single blues fest
Really, eh?
except for one.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
With different bands, but different variations of bands. But probably the Chains played the last, I want to say, 6 or 7 blues festivals.
Really,
Yeah.
eh? That's super
Yeah.
cool. What's the experience with that? Like, it's one of the bigger venues that Thunder Bay has
For sure.
ever.
And the tech guys are amazing. They're the fellows from the auditorium. So it's always great to play on a stage where those guys are doing the sound because it's always impeccable, super professional,
Yeah.
seamless, smooth. Everything. You just walk on stage and bam, everything's there.
Yeah.
And of course, the crowds are great to play for. And they've kind of, the festival's kind of growing every year too, so it keeps getting a little bit bigger every year. Hopefully it'll come back again,
Right.
maybe next year. But it's an amazing experience. Like, and,
Yeah.
and you get to meet some of the other musicians too, the other acts that are playing, and you get to see some of the other acts that are playing. So it's just a really cool. And you know what? It's also like a reunion, friends reunion. Like you see everybody that you know or knew, and you get to see different musicians and
Yeah.
friends, and it's just a all around great show to be a part of.
Yeah. It must be super cool, like, playing in local bars and then being able to, like, play at this big
I absolutely
festival.
love the large stages. I
Yeah.
am not scared to get up on there. I just thrive on that.
Yeah. It's more energy to feed off of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's just like instantly I just feel this energy building up, and it's almost like you want to explode, and then you just go up on stage and let it all come out through the vocals, right?
Yeah.
And the energy and
Super cool.
Yeah, it's tons of fun.
Yeah, I didn't know that the auditorium guys did the sound for Blues
Yeah.
Fest. That's neat. Yeah, that explains why I've been to a couple, and the audio is always just clean and just,
Yeah.
you never
And
notice
Bob
it.
Schindel also does the sound. He's, I believe, a member of the union here, the IATSE union.
Okay.
So he's formerly a Thunder Bay resident. He's now living in Toronto, and he comes up and does the sound as well. And he
Nice.
does sound for Kim Mitchell, Tom Cochran.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he's also mixing the Chains album as well, which is very
Nice.
kind of him.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Nice. What's the process for like finishing and mixing an album like?
There's a lot of work, actually. There's a lot of extra work. So there's the basic recording process where you get
Right.
all your tracks down and then the vocals, and then we've been adding all the icing parts like percussion and background vocals, and we added some violin. We've got a Zydeco guy
Oh, wow.
playing
Yeah,
on the album. So
going
that's
all
all
out.
kinds of really interesting things happening.
Like George Martin production.
Yeah,
of all the different instruments.
Yeah, exactly. And then Rob Jardine, who's doing the recording, is a guitar player for the Chain. He's sending all of the tracks to Bob in Toronto, and Bob mixes them, creates stems. So if we want to add anything extra, it's there
Right.
if we have it. And then once that's all done, then we'll get it mastered. So we're almost done all of the the mixing portion of it, and we've got a few little tweaks to do, and then it'll be sent to be mastered. We have to pick which songs we want to do, and so it's getting close.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you? In my experience, there's two types of musicians, especially ones that do like avidly, they just live for music. Are you the kind of musician that lives to perform live and recording is a means to perform live, or you love recording and performing is just a means to record more music? You know what I mean?
That's an interesting question, but I love them both the same because I get two different I get two different feelings when I do either or. Like live, you can't beat that feed off of the audience and gather their energy. But in the studio, you need to create your own energy, and that's equally as interesting, to create something that sounds as good as you'd want it to be when you're playing live, right? You got to create your own excitement. So it's two different processes, but I love them both equally the same.
Right, like the two children dilemma.
That's
love
right.
Them both equally.
If I had to throw one out, if I had to save one, I don't know which one it would be.
For sure. During COVID, when you couldn't play live, did you find yourself recording more?
We were doing tons of recording. Everybody was kind of set up at their own households.
Okay.
And so we would email each other tracks and, like, hey, I got an idea. Or if I had an idea for a music part, I would just like play it on through my cell phone, send it to one of the Robs, and because I have a Rob in the rock band and a Rob in the blues band,
the two Robs,
depending on who it is,
right.
And then they would create something and then send it back to me, and with a drum track and a just a recorded drum track, something that we could work with, and I'd throw some lyrics and some singing on it and send it back to them. And so we were kind of it's obviously a different process of recording than just kind of getting together and working right in the room and feeding off of each other.
Yeah.
But it was the best case scenario. At least we were still creating something.
Yeah. It's crazy how the music industry has went from like 30 years ago, you all have to gather in a big studio to record unless you're recording onto like a cassette and it's going to be shitty.
It was hard to record 30 years ago because I have been in the music business. I've been in it for 35 years. And I'm glad you looked a little bit surprised when I said 35. Thanks for that.
I was going to say, you look 35.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, I have been around in the music business for over 35 years. And so back then it was if you wanted to original music, it was a pretty big process to record and pretty expensive too. Yeah. So you had to have, you had to save up money to go and record. Nowadays, it's like you can get a decent product from home recording.
It's crazy.
Units and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy how far it's come.
I have a friend that recorded an album with like one $300 mic, one little like mic amplifier console thing, and then like one mic he stole from high school or something like that. And he recorded a whole album, and it sounds like an album. Like it sounds good. And I know, he just used GarageBand.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and you could get all those plugins on GarageBand. So you could get like amp modelers, you can get effects units. Like all that stuff you had to purchase back then. You had to have all that stuff. Yeah. And it was pretty pricey. And stuff was expensive back then. Nowadays you could find, there's different varying costs for production depending on how much you want to spend. But it's doable now for the backyard guy, right? So it's I think that's great.
Yeah, and
like look how much cool music has come out.
Yeah, and you need to like the barrier for entry and even knowledge has gone like so much less. Like
for sure
in the 50s and 60s and 70s at Abbey Road, like the recording engineers were like engineers and they used to wear lab coats and it was very mathematical. Now it's like every 15-year-old that wants to record a hip hop song doesn't really need to know much besides the basics.
You can just keep trying out the effects till it sounds good, right?
Until it sounds good. You have an interface right in front of you.
You've got like 1,000 different options right at your fingertips, which is crazy. And also the size of equipment too, right? Everything
it's so much
you could
smaller,
do everything on a laptop.
Yeah.
Like you never would have been able to do that 30 years ago.
Yeah, a laptop, a MIDI keyboard, and like one mic, and you can just conquer the entire world.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Which is great because we get so much more music out of it, right?
I know.
Yeah, it's so cool. So let's dial it back from conquering the world. What's the music scene like in Thunder Bay? Like, is it a pretty tight-knit community in your experience?
Yeah, I find that everybody gets along really well. I always pass along jobs. You know, if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, can you play this gig or whatever?" and if I can't do it, I'll say, "I can't, but let me call a few of my friends and I'll see if one of them can accommodate you."
That's super cool.
And so there's a pretty good network that way.
Nice.
And also, I mean, for our size of town, we still have quite a lot of venues that feature live music, and it's building back up again because of, COVID's gearing down ish. And
yeah.
So far, and some more clubs they're trying to bring back the live music again. So for our size of community, we actually have a lot of venues and events happening in town that feature live music and feature live local music.
Yeah,
and
that's
there's
great.
a surprisingly large amount of local musicians in town for our size of and
there
very
really
talented
is.
musicians.
Yeah, there's a ton of local musicians.
And
just
when I
in-
say musicians, I mean singers as well too.
Yes, for sure. There's my joke is just in my experience, like playing in bands in town, is there's tons of musicians in town, but you can't find a drummer to save your life. Like you can never find a drummer. One time I just
We could use some more drummers in town.
drummers, yeah. If
I
any
have
drummers
all
are
the, I
listening,
have all the best ones in town over.
yeah,
I claim them all.
You got them all. You should like start a drumming agency where
Yeah,
you
maybe I
charge
should,
people
eh?
to get one of your drummers for like a day.
Exactly.
One time I put up a bunch of posters all around town looking for a drummer and a bassist.
Yeah.
And I had people texting me being like, "Do you need a guitar player? I play guitar." And I was like, "No, I don't need another guitar player."
I know everybody wants to be the rock star guitar
Yes,
player, right?
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always tell people, it's like, "Oh, like I want to learn guitar." I'm like, "Listen, you should learn piano, bass, or drums."
Yeah,
because
for
those
sure.
are like way
for sure.
cooler.
It's super hard to find keyboard players.
Yeah.
And it is super hard to find drummers. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
hilarious.
glad I've had both of my drummers I've been playing with for many, many years.
Cream of the crop of drummers in Thunder
Yes.
Bay.
Yeah, I'm
Well, that
very,
makes it
very
easier.
lucky.
Yeah.
I had Jimmy Differ, I've got Chris Plater, and I got Brad Leishman. And I'm
Cool.
keeping Chris and Brad for sure.
Yeah, keep the cards close to the chest.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sharing their phone numbers.
Exactly. Yeah. So, how many venues are there in town that like? There's Black Pirates.
There's
the
Black
Wayland.
Pirates, Wayland, Foundry, Cheers, Red Lion.
Okay.
The Hodder does stuff occasionally. Hopefully we'll see some more out of that club too. It'd be nice to build that place back up because it's a little bit bigger place for bands to play and they have a stage already set up and stuff. And then there's also a lot of other events happening, like Scott Masemchuk out at Amberlight does Amber Jam every year.
Right.
It's a 3-day concert and he features all local bands, which is very, very kind and generous of him.
Yeah.
And he's slowly been building up every year, and he's got a giant stage out there and a huge
Right.
area to do concerts in. And so hopefully, is starting to do a few things more, but he does Amberlight every year.
Yeah, I've seen video from that concert, and it just seems like a great summer
Oh,
thing
it's
to do.
super fun, and the lake's right beside there. They've got a party bar.
Yeah.
It's tons of fun.
Do you usually isn't it like an hour or two out of town?
It's not far. It's about hour 40 outside of town.
Cool. So
It is.
do you usually stay out there, like camp out for the night?
Yeah,
That's
well,
super fun.
I don't camp. I get one of the
cabins.
One of the cabins.
Right.
So
What is it called? Glamping?
glamping. Yes,
Yeah.
I glamp. That's right.
You
Because
glamp.
I bring out my fuzzy blanket and
Nice.
we have our fridge and our stove and
Yeah,
our barbecue
camping
and
style.
that's right, exactly.
Yeah, I do love
I'm
when
not a
people say
ground
that.
sleeper. I'm too old for that.
No?
now.
Yeah, for sure. I do love when people say like, "Oh, I'm going camping," and they go to like a camp with Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're living like the pioneers do.
Yeah, exactly.
So besides Headrush playing on the March 11th and 12th,
Yeah.
right? What else do you have coming out?
It's strictly recording right now because we're trying to
Cool.
get the rest of the album done. So
Yeah.
I'm just doing the rock gigs as they come available. I'm not actively searching out anything.
Yeah.
I've started rehearsing again with the 2-piece band. We started last month because with all the COVID numbers, we had kind of,
Yeah.
everybody's trying to be safe, right? So we're just starting to gear up for that again. And so once we've got another month under our belt, I'll start looking for gigs and I'll hit up Cheers and Red Lion.
Nice.
In case they're listening.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
You're coming. Be on their radar.
That's right, exactly.
So the album is Do you have like a rough timeline when you're hoping to finish it that you might want to talk about?
Yeah, we're hoping for the end of the summer to have it ready for the fall time.
Cool.
So for next year's Blues Festival, should it happen, we'll have that all ready to go for a release, and we'll probably do a CD release party as well.
Nice, super cool. Yeah, so our humble listeners should watch out for that new album.
Keep their eyes peeled.
Yeah,
and ears.
Does the chain have like a social media account that people?
We're on
can
Facebook.
Check out?
Yeah, we're on Facebook.
Cool.
They can check us out and join. And we always post if we're doing something or playing somewhere. We always post on there for you. And I post on my own page as well, Chrissy Klaas.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So make sure everybody follows that page. Otherwise, I'll find out and I'll be a little bit upset about that.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think that is pretty much all the time we have for the show this week.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming out.
It's tons of fun. I feel like I'm back in the business again.
Back in the biz. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for tuning in to DMP Postscripts, and we'll see you in a week or two.